Microbes and magic. Do I need to be closer to the...
A little bit, if you could.
Okay. I just wanted to start by thanking Flora and the whole team here for doing this Fermentation Fest. This was the first year they did it, and I think this has been a resounding success. I would like to start off with a bit of reflection and a little gratitude for everyone being here. I was really excited to do Fermentation Fest because what I've noticed about people who ferment or are interested in fermentation are a little more intentional about their eating, a little more reflective, usually very patient, and humble because things can go awry. And but you also have a sense of wonder because you are working with microbes all across the board, whether you're pickling, making kombucha, sourdough bread, all the things. If you're all the way up to making garum and soy sauce, that's pretty crazy. Cheese is kind of in the middle. If you're comfortable with kombucha, comfortable with sourdough bread, cheese making might be something you look at next. So anyway, so this class we're going to talk about microbes. We're not necessarily going to talk about specific cheeses a whole lot. I will talk about the 2 cheeses you ate because they kind of are good examples of some principles in cheese making that we want to talk about with microbes. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm the founder of Crumb Rind. I call myself a cheese guide. I do tastings, I do pairings, I do book clubs, I do knitting circles. I did a book club where we had a Shakespeare themed tasting. I've done knitting club, all kinds of things. Dinners, if you want to do a cheese board before, and you want to have someone come talk about the history of the cheese or anything. I'm a little bit different than a lot of the cheesemongers you might talk to, say at Formaggio Kitchen where I work. I focus a lot on the history and the science because I was a cheesemaker at one time at Boxcar Handmade Cheese. So I have both retail, tasting, pairing experience, as well as the background in the science. And I love history, so that's also where I come from there. So my food journey, I used to have an office job. My food journey started in 2018 when my family and I started a farm. And we foolishly bought an incredibly lushly wooded lot, and we thought we were going to grow veggies there. But you need sunshine for that. And I kind of went, well, we've got all these gorgeous trees. What's good to grow in the shade? Mushrooms. So I started taking classes on mushroom cultivation. I became a licensed mushroom forager. And when I was in South Carolina at Mushroom Mountain, I had one of these moments that has stuck with me, and I'm calling them one of my magical moments. Trad Potter, the head of Mushroom Mountain down there, he was talking about when he went to a scientific conference. Now, he just has a bachelor's in microbiology. He's not like a big research guy. He's into mushrooms, all the kinds, culinary and otherwise. And he went to this conference, and they were talking about the differences in the efficacy of Tulsi basil, whether organic or conventionally grown, works better for medicinal purposes, let's just say. And they talked about the differences with the basil, all the little chemical components of basil. And he raised his hand and he said, "Have you guys compared the fungus between the organic basil and the conventionally grown basil?" And they all said, "No, we never even thought of it." That was a big moment to me where I realized that there's a lot of things in our food system, in our bodies, in the world that we don't really even think about or even understand. And then when I had my little farm and I was learning more about soil health and I was taking a permaculture class, one of the things we had to do was, dig up dirt and analyze it and everything. And they talked about how as soon as you dig up the soil, you are losing some of the cultures. You can't see everything. As soon as you dig it up, they're gone. Like if you're gonna look under a microscope, there's not a way for us to truly know at the moment what's actually in our soil. So I was just like, these microbes that we just take for granted, you know, just, it's amazing. So there, I kind of was going in that direction. And then I got a job at Boxcar Handmade Cheese. It was down the road for me. It said free cheese if you want to wash dishes a couple days a week. I thought it would be great to have a little extra money, free cheese. And so that's where I got into cheese. The other big magic moment for me was when I first saw milk turn into curd. We're going to talk more about that, but you can understand all of the science to go along with it. It is truly a magical moment. It is just like, wow, that's cool. And I don't know if you've ever had that feeling when you make sourdough bread and it actually turned out, or any kind of thing where you're just like, this actually worked. Like, I understand what's supposed to happen, but you're like, fingers crossed it will. And that was just one of those things that I just think cheese is amongst all of the fermented goods. It's just, they're all very special, but like just the magic involved in it, like it's amazing it works. Like it's just always amazing. You don't really ever lose that sense of wonder. So I should keep going on. Anyway, I went to cookery school in Ireland, worked at a natural cidery, worked at an all sourdough bakery, blah, 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 lots of fermentation kind of stuff going on. So what I want to talk to you about is, has anyone made any kind of dairy product? Anyone? Yogurt? Mozzarella, so like a quick feta?
Cottage.
Oh, cottage cheese, excellent. Yogurt, yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, great. So those are fermented. So did you added cultures to those?
Well, I fermented off of a live yogurt.
A live yogurt, so that was your culture, yeah. So basically, cheese is made out of milk. Cheese is usually made out of cow, sheep, goat, and buffalo. Those are all what we call ruminants.
And camel.
I'll get to that if you like. Camel milk, that is not a ruminant, so it doesn't set the same way, but like our classic cheeses, the ruminants, the reason ruminants are great is because they've got, I don't know if anyone knows what a ruminant is, they've got like the 4 chambers of stomach, so they basically eat the hay or the grass, and then it goes through a stomach and it kind of mixes with microbes, and then they kind of burp it back up, and they chew on it again, and it goes back until it's like in a consistency that the rest of their digestive tract can handle. So there's a lot of microbes involved with making the milk. There's horse milk, there's camel milk, there's donkey milk. Their milk is not as high in what we call casein, which is the milk protein. So that is why ruminant milk is the best for building the curd. A donkey milk, camel milk, it'll be really, like, it won't be a hard cheese. It won't set the same way. So traditionally, yeah, we're using ruminant milk. So you get the milk. Has anyone heard like kind of like raw milk, pasteurized milk?
Yes.
So basically, pasteurization started and it saved a lot of lives. There's bovine tuberculosis. There's a lot of really sketchy things that can show up in milk. If done correctly and everything goes well, you should be able to use raw milk. But in our system, I'm pro raw milk for sure for cheese, but I'm also not a fundamentalist about it. Like sometimes you gotta pasteurize. For example, cheddars in England. I'm the British buyer at Formaggio Kitchen, and sometimes I'll get an alert saying, "Hey, this wheel of cheese is going to be pasteurized." We found some badgers near our dairy. We're not allowed to kill them because they're protected. They carry bovine tuberculosis. So rather than dumping the milk, they just pasteurize the milk, and the cheese is still great. Like it's just different. It's just not going to be quite have as much of the cultures that were normally there in the milk. So all the cultures that came from the milk with these cows chewing their cud and everything, there's a lot of native culture in the milk already. So if you pasteurize it, you're cooking it to a point that kills most of the pathogens and most of the good stuff too. But just like, it's kind of like natural wine and, sulfited wine. There's really terrible natural wine out there. Like it's a fact. Like there's great stuff. It's a lot more unpredictable. You don't know what's in your, grape juice. Same thing with the milk. You don't always know what you're going to get. So for a business, you can imagine all the money you've spent getting this milk, making the curd, aging the cheese. That's so much money, so much labor going into it. And then you find out, oh, it doesn't taste very good. It's kind of a bummer. So for that reason too, you kind of got to give people a little break if they're like, we just pasteurize because we know what we're going to deal with. Like it's not the end of the world. But when they are able to do raw milk, it is fantastic. Like when everything works out right. And as people interested in fermentation, I'm sure you all are most interested in the raw milk. Cultures do a lot of things to milk, not just adding flavor. Basically, milk begins to clump a little bit when there's cultures added. The cultures are starting, the lactobacillus is starting to eat the lactose in the milk, and it's acidifying. Their excretion, whatever you want to call it, is acidifying the milk. The acidification takes those protein clumps and it makes it so they're not what we call hydrophobic. They don't bounce off each other. So if it's just regular milk, they're going to just bounce off each other. It's going to stay fluid. Once you add acid, whether you're making an acid set cheese like a paneer, it's going to let it clump a little bit. Not like crazy amount, not like a hard cheese would need, but like it's starting to get there. It's those negative ions get neutralized and they're able to kind of be friends. Then later you add rennet. Has anyone heard of rennet?
Yes.
So sometimes there's rennet that's made out of thistle, like Portugal uses thistle traditionally, but generally it's made out of the calf's stomach lining. It helps the calf digest the mother's milk.
What's a thistle?
Thistle, it kind of looks to me like an artichoke, like a flower, like it's a kind of flower. Yeah. So they make rennet out of thistle.
Rennet,
Mm-hmm.
Are there other plants they use for vegetable rennet?
A lot of, I made it out of nettle. It did not work for me, but I read that it works for some people. I think it's a little trickier. It's going to be a little bit of a weaker curd. It won't be as firm. It'll be a little weaker.
So, do you happen to know why in Portugal the tradition is to use a thistle?
No one really knows why.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question is, why in Portugal do they use thistle? Like, is there a reason? Is there it's just a tradition. There's a lot of cheese lore that we actually don't know the answer to. Yeah.
Cheese lore.
Cheese lore. Yeah. There's a lot of mythology out there about cheese, and you can imagine. Cheese is meant to be kind of insurance over the winter in a lot of places, or a way to create calories out of milk that might normally just get wasted. So if things don't go well, you kind of, you might starve. So it was very serious. Cheese was taken very seriously, and people wanted explanations for things. There's There's a lot of accusations of witchcraft back in the day about if cheese didn't go right. There's a organism called a bacteriophage. It eats bacteria, and if your bacteria is the thing that you're using to acidify the milk, and you get an infection with this bacteriophage, you will not have cheese. It will stay like milk. So, of course, back in the day, they had no idea what bacteria was. They had no idea what it meant. Like, it truly was. It's amazing they made cheese and all. I'm grateful all the time of the trial and error that people went through to figure out how to make these gorgeous cheeses. I mean, we've had these gorgeous cheeses for a very long time, way before we knew what a bacteria was. Before we knew what an enzyme was. I don't know how and there's all these little stories about how people figured it out. Most of them are probably not true. They're just like a guy put milk in a saddle bag made out of like calf's stomach and then made cheese, and then everyone went, oh, now we can make cheese. That's probably not what happened, but it's a cute story. Yeah. It probably was trial and error, people trying to figure out how to preserve food for the lean times. Like it wouldn't have been so cavalier. Obviously things are made like, whoa, look at this. Something gets left on a lab table even now, and discoveries get made. But the fact that cheese was made in so many different places, it's pretty unlikely it was just a guy on his horse with a saddlebag made out
Do you
of
think it's possible that originally somebody just left the leftovers of milk outside?
It's probably, she asked if it's possible that someone figured it out by just leaving
No,
milk.
not figure it out,
They just
they
did it.
didn't have a choice, they didn't have a choice.
Well, yeah, you would have had extra milk left over, and you would want to figure out a way to use it. So it wasn't just happenstance, it wasn't an accident, people were figuring it out.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are there places where they don't make cheese?
There are a lot of places they don't make cheese. Most places they don't make cheese. Yeah.
Like China doesn't make cheese.
China doesn't make cheese. There's the paneer in India. That's pretty unusual. Outside of, it's mostly a European.
Interesting.
And actually, that's one of the reasons, to go off on a tangent, the U.S., Canadian, the Americas, we'll just say, no tradition of cheese making over here. So that was when Europeans came over, brought their cheese making with them. That is why we don't have the same level of artisanal cheese making. Although we're growing, we don't have, in France they've got Brie from Normandy, here you go, and Roquefort is from, the caves of Roquefort. They've got all these, the Comte you have, that is from the Alpine area, the Jura of France. Stilton's from 3 counties in England. They have, this is where this cheese is from. We don't really have that. So, and that's partially why. So there is cheese made in Australia, there's cheese made in New Zealand, there's cheese made all over the world, but many, many communities around the world don't even bother with dairy.
Do you think it has to do with the temperature? Because if they're hot, if the climate is so hot, instead of milk becoming yogurt, it becomes bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more yogurt out there than there is cheese. I would say there's more places making yogurt. I do think in order to age cheese, she asked about temperature, in order to age cheese, you do need to keep it cool. Whether or not you could live in a hot place, southern France, the southern Italy's got plenty of beautiful sheep's milk cheese. You need somewhere to put it, like a cave. There's also really big caves in southern Italy. So they've got places to put things, keep them cool. So there's a lot of cultural, geographic reasons why certain cheeses develop in certain places. Let's see. So there's a couple different ways. So if you have a raw milk cheese, you don't really need to add as much of the cultures, to your cheese. You've already got some microbes in there. If you pasteurize your cheese though, you absolutely have to add cultures. And most of the time they come in little packets, just like you would if you're just making bread and you bought a little packet of yeast, same idea. It doesn't mean it's bad cheese, but it's definitely not going to have the depth of flavor that something, the raw milk cheese will have. But it might be cleaner tasting. So the cheese you ate, that brie type of cheese, that was Moses Sleeper from Jasper Hill in Vermont, that is a pasteurized cheese. This guy here, yes, that is a pasteurized cheese. That is a brie style cheese. The microbe, the mold responsible for that nice mushroomy rind is Penicillium camberti. Pretty much anytime you see that white kind of cakey rind, brie, camembert are the two biggies. It's a penicillium. Other penicilliums out there in the cheese, Penicillium roquefori. Do you want to guess what color that one is? Blue, yeah. So, and actually, Penicillium camberti used to be blue. It was over centuries of making brie and camembert. The penicillium was domesticated and got lighter and lighter and lighter, and now it's white. So it's kind of, so back in the day, brie would have been like blue, but not taste like blue cheese. I mean, that would be, for us to try that cheese, we would probably be like, this doesn't taste like blue cheese at all, and yeah, it's different. The other cheese, that is a Comté, that is a year-aged Alpine cheese, so that's made up in the Jura in France. That is a raw milk cheese. So it's aged a lot longer than the brie, but that's actually the youngest Comté we sell at Formaggio Kitchen. So that's on the younger side. They get much more savory as they get older.
Are you able always to tell the difference?
I would say that there are times we get a new shipment in, so the ones that are the young ones taste a lot different than the young wheel that we had from months before.
Are you personally, as a professional, always able to tell the difference by tasting if it's raw or not?
Oh, raw or not? I could probably make a good guess. Yeah.
On any cheese?
Sure. Yeah, I could try. I mean, yeah, I think I could. I eat cheese all day. I eat a lot of cheese, and it on purpose and with mindfulness and trying to, think about it. And I do think I'd probably be able to tell, oh, this is definitely pasteurized more than betting that it's raw. Yeah.
If like someone has to use pasteurized milk for one batch, could they take raw milk cheese that was successful from a previous year and like throw that in it or something as like a starter? And like culture it basically?
So what they do is called back swapping. They take away from the cheese they made the day before, and they put it in milk for the next day, and they kind of grow it. It's like sourdough, how you would make sourdough starter, pull out some and get it ready to be used.
And that still doesn't like make up for the pasteurization like taste.
The cultures grown out that way probably aren't going to be quite as robust as what's needed for like the little packets, because those are like hardcore. I think people probably would try to do that, but in a commercial setting, I don't think that would be a good bet for them. But at home, you could do it. But it might not be robust. The cultures might not be robust enough.
Oh, to like stay around.
Yeah, or to acidify enough for the cheese to be safe. Because that's the other thing the cultures do when they're acidifying the milk. They're making it not friendly to pathogens and friendlier for the microbes that actually make the cheese. Very much like all the other fermentation where you're encouraging the good guys and trying to get the bad guys to not get a foothold.
How do they do that? What do they do to encourage?
Sorry, what,
How do they encourage things like that?
there's some that are just, they change the, a lot of it has to do with pH. Some microbes are happier at a certain pH. There's just other conditions that certain microbes will create for other microbes. It's like a relay race. Making cheese is very much a relay race for the microbes. There's some microbes that their job's done in the first few hours, and then they're done. And then there's other microbes that are in the milk that take over and do other things. There's some microbes that kind of prep the conditions for the other microbes to add the flavor. But there's a lot going on with the milk. It wouldn't be just adding one. You could make it with just lactobacillus. It would not be a very tasty or interesting cheese if you did that. But you had a question.
Even, as a buyer, or even if I would make cheese at home, I would, like this time of year that the cows are eating the grasses,
Yeah.
will influence, I would say, the flavor. So
Sure.
even if you're, you can try to use raw milk, great, but if not, even commercially, unless it's a factory farm, they're never getting any grass from it,
Right,
whatever
right,
they
right.
get. But would there be an optimal time to make your cheese?
There are some cheeses that, especially wintertime cheeses, my brain is taking a moment. There's some really creamy, lovely Swiss cheeses. No, I don't mean Swiss with the big holes, I just mean from Switzerland. They are made specifically with cows who are eating hay. There are cheeses that require the cows to be eating grass, Parmigiano Reggiano. You're only allowed to use milk from certain times because that guarantees that the cows are eating grass. You can also see, I don't know if you've ever noticed, sometimes different wheels of cheeses will look more yellow than, artisanal, I don't mean like factory cheese. The more grass the cows eat, the yellower it'll be. So when you look at, we'll use butter as an example, Kerrygold butter that everyone loves, it's like yellow. It's because in Ireland, they have year-round grass. They don't ever have to feed the cows hay. So that's why they have that gorgeous, what it is beta-carotene. Cows, have beta-carotene that comes out in their milk. And interestingly, you can spot a goat's milk cheese pretty easily because it's always bright white, and that's because the goats metabolize beta-carotene very differently and it doesn't come out in their milk. You can see white cow's milk, and I mean artisanal, if you acidify your cheese very quickly, it washes out a lot of the beta-carotene. So Wensleydale is often dyed orange with annatto. It's a natural colorant. The north of England, they don't like it that way. They just say, just keep it the way it is. So it's like that's Cheshire, never mind. So Cheshire washes out the beta-carotene with the quick acidity. And then for the southern markets like London, they want their Cheshire to be orange. But in the north, they're like, we don't care, we want it white. So you know where you are in England based on what color Cheshire is, which I think is kind of fun. Yeah. But the annatto started being added because it mimicked healthy hay or healthy grass-fed cows. And now it's just become tradition. It's not an indication of healthy cows or not, especially in a cheese where even if it was a fully grass-fed cow, the acidity is washing out. pH in cheese is one of the most important markers of anything. I know if you are going to try to make cheese yourself, I recommend getting those little strips, or there's a pH meter that's like $100. That is kind of expensive. Those little pH strips do a pretty good job too. Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, I have two. One, since when you make a cottage cheese, you put acidity immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the cottage cheese, for example, is not as healthy as a cheese you just fed us.
It's not as what?
Healthy as a cheese that you just fed us, for example.
You mean the milk's not as healthy or
No,
the?
I mean, because we had acidity right away, immediately.
Yeah, that just means it's clumping right away.
Right, but it
Yeah.
also means that there's not a bad character at all.
No, I think the beta carotene would still. I mean, yeah, cottage cheese is always bright white, right?
Yeah.
Because of the high acidity, it gets washed out. But I wouldn't say it's less healthy.
But when you say it's washed out, does it mean that it's washed out into the whey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the whey has a lot of beta carotene.
Yeah, so I don't know if you all know whey protein powder is made out of whey. One of my colleagues, he was supposed to come, but he has worked at Formaggio longer than I have, and he actually goes, I didn't realize whey protein powder is made out of whey.
Oh.
I'm gonna tell him I told everyone.
What's the range of acidity?
So when you start with milk, it's slightly more acidic than neutral, so it's like 6.5, because 7 is like water. You can get down into the 4s, which is really, so acidity like, the pH scale, like I grew up in California, so I know the Richter scale is like exponential. So the further you go, it's not just a little bit more, it's a lot more.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of cheese will be in the white acidic.
So is there alkaline cheese?
No.
No, it's all would be
Yeah.
6.5.
Sometimes there are microbes that are added to set the stage for other microbes that like more alkaline. It won't be alkaline because it never passes that point. I don't know if you've ever seen like a really wrinkly white rind, geotrichum. That is a yeast actually, and it likes the surface to be a little less alkaline, or a little less acidic. So there's microbes you would put in your cheese to help it do that, so that will grow. There's other things you can do, like washing it with salt, water. I don't know if you had wash rinds. Yeah, that can change it as well. Allow for a bacteria to grow. It's a red smeared cheese, the wash rind Brevibacterium linens, E-linens. It's kind of, I always love to talk about, I could do a whole class on just E-linens. It adds a meaty flavor. It's kind of associated with monks. They would have been washing cheese as part of their prayer and meditation. They also weren't allowed to eat meat a lot of the time, so they wanted something that scratched that itch. But anyway, yeah, washed rind cheeses are pretty interesting. You're adding cultures after the cheese is already made. So it's the wheel, and then you could be adding more things to it. Washing it with beer, that would add another level of yeast. So there's a lot of things you can do with the cheese. Yeah, question?
I have two. One is, does it mean that whey has more beta carotene than cottage cheese?
I don't know the answer to that.
And the other one, if you take, let's say, 90% of non-pasteurized milk and then mix it with the 10% pasteurized milk, is that enough not to have to add the remnant?
Not to what?
Not to add that pocket that
No, I don't know, honestly. So you're asking if you had mostly
Yes.
pasteurized
No,
milk,
mostly non-pasteurized.
mostly raw milk.
Most of them.
I don't know why you would do that. Yeah.
So you don't have to mix the pocket.
Oh,
Has to be pasteurized.
I don't know. I would assume that just a little bit of pasteurized milk mixed in would probably be okay. That would be a very, that's definitely a home cheesemaker question.
Is there cheesemaking classes anywhere in the Boston area?
I'm pretty new to Boston. I believe there is a woman I talked to in the town of Cambridge, like maybe through I'm just gonna make up Parks and Rec. I'm assuming they have something like that. Yeah, their little town. Yeah. But you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about, acid is one thing, salinity is the other, right? So, like, is that, Talk about solidity.
Okay, so salt, so the cheese is made out of milk, cultures, enzymes, and salt, and time. Salt is, just like with a lot of fermented goods, it can stop the bad guys from growing. But you don't ever add it at the beginning. Like you wouldn't put salt in the milk. Maybe someone does. I did hear about a commercial cheesemaker that did that, and they're out of business. So I don't know. She was a federal prosecutor in New York, and she retired and decided to buy a cheesemaker. And she just took a weekend class, and I was just like, okay, that's crazy. But anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so you would add it, you could add it to the curds as you're, so you've got this beautiful, when it's, the milk is turning into curds and whey. It's like, almost like silken tofu, or, you cut into it, scoop it out. When you make cheddar, for example, you would add the salt as you're chopping it up and restacking it, doing the cheddar is like a very artisanal cheddar, not like block cheddar, is a very, you have to be really strong. You have to be lifting these big things of curd and chopping them up into tiny bits and pressing them and all of that sort of stuff. That's when you add the salt. Where I worked at Boxcar, we gave the little brand new cheeses a little bath. So we grind them. A little piece of brie, little guy, would be frying for maybe like an hour and 15 minutes, whereas a big block would be like 24 hours. So it depends on, how dense, how big, and all of that. So that's one way. Feta is often dry brine, so you rub it, with salt. But it's a very important part of the cheese making process.
Yeah, because like the different styles have different amounts of salt. So is it like related to something?
So
Or just like because it tastes good.
yeah, there's a lot of things that can mimic salt, like the savoriness, like it'll taste saltier sometimes. Interestingly, like the Comte is an alpine cheese, so it's made up from the mountains where traditionally you wouldn't have had as much salt. So the way they corrected for that, because they need to get a lot of moisture out of the curd, is that they cook the curd. So they cook it and they press it. Whereas other places have got tons of salt, you don't necessarily do that. So you're gonna have a much more open, softer curd because you've got salt around. Because you have to take salt, they did understand salt. Like they might not have understood microbes. Salt was like, okay, we get that. There's different, I feel like the more a cheese ages, the saltier it tastes because you've lost moisture. So like the salt to solid ratio would be, make it taste saltier. But, yeah. Question?
Can you talk more about building a rind, like in a hard cheese like that versus the softer cheese?
Yeah, so the softer cheese would be allowed to grow that penicillium rind. It's going to get flipped over every day. The rind grows from the inside out, so there's the penicillium is already in the cheese itself. Some cheaters will spray it in the room. I shouldn't say cheaters. Maybe a cheesemaker forgot to put it in. That happens. There's like, oh, I forgot that little packet, or it can happen. But generally, that rind starts developing within a week, easy. The other one, the Comte, that's a natural rind. That is definitely just drying out. They don't allow that to grow on it because they clean it. But the air, it just dries it out and it creates a natural rind. The orangey, stinky cheeses, they get washed and they kind of stay soft. Yeah, so there's different ways. You kind of leave it alone. Maybe, you clean it, but kind of just flip it around and everything. The Comté, that's a natural rind. These are, just a few weeks, and it gets that nice. Right, 2 weeks, and you'd be able to sell it. It just wouldn't be nice and gooey like that. And then some cheeses, like a Chev, doesn't really have a rind. Trying to think, mozzarella doesn't have a rind. Yeah, there's some. Yeah, not enough time. I don't think you'd want to eat an aged mozzarella anyway.
Could you talk about like smoking cheese and also like waxing rinds? Because I know
Yeah,
that some
Goudas are often, when you think about waxy,
yeah.
is Gouda. That's kind of a cool way they figured out to keep the moisture in as it ages. So you're not going to have that dry rind, and it's not going to get like, dried out. You keep, it's able to continue to age. The culture is in, the paste there, continuing to do their work, have the moisture. So that's why Gouda is able to be aged for years and years, versus some of the other cheeses. I think our oldest Comté is 3 years, and that's really savory. Whereas we have a 5-year Gouda and it's still pretty sweet. And then what did you say the other?
Like smoke. I
Smoked.
was also thinking of Gouda.
Smoked. So obviously you don't want to heat cheese up, so they're cold smoked. That smoke has often been used as a preservative as well. Like it, whether you're smoking fish or it's a good way to make the food last longer and it tastes good. I mean, that's generally why we do it now, is it tastes good. But yeah, it's just sort of tradition. And you'd want to do that before you put the wax on it. Yeah. Let's see.
Have you ever dehydrated your whey?
Oh.
Because,
Yeah.
protein drinks.
Yeah. What I have done with whey, if you do decide to make cheese, whey is really nice if you're making bread. Add it to your bread.
But I mean, sometimes you have a lot of it.
It's
Yeah.
very nice to make a soup out of it.
Make a soup.
Cold soup. You just have to cut, that's what we do, a lot of dill, not Italian parsley, not curly parsley, cucumbers, radishes, and boiled oil.
You also, if you live somewhere with alkaline soil, and you're growing something that likes more acidic soil, like blueberry bushes, and fertilize.
No, don't waste it on the ground.
Well, assuming you have loads of it,
Still
Also, there's spas in the Alps where you can take a bath in it. It's supposed to be great for your skin. I don't know, you smell
It's
kind of
really
weird.
nice.
I wonder if you just boiled it down.
I don't know. So you're trying to get the whey proteins out of it.
To last longer than, and plus
Oh, you
it's
just
salty.
make ricotta?
They freeze it.
Ricotta.
You can just freeze it and use it.
So,
Freeze it very well.
there's plenty of things to do with the whey. That's usually not the biggest issue with, making cheese, especially at home, having too much whey. In Parma, they feed it to the whey from the Parmigiano Reggiano to the pigs or the prosciutto di Parma. That's a very common, that's why prosciutto di Parma is what it is, because they eat the pigs with the whey. Yeah, so it's not a really nice circle there. So there's a lot of
Some people use it to start ferments as well.
Start ferments.
Teacher would say save the whey. Use part of it for your brine, for your pickles.
there's lactobacillus in it, so it's you'd want to make sure you didn't have anything else in there that made it yucky.
Your
Yeah.
sauerkraut's not vegan anymore, right?
Well, then your sauerkraut is not vegan, but it
That's right,
it can be a fun vegetable renegade.
Also, you can marinate spinach in it.
Vegetarian.
Yes.
So,
Never make spinach in it. It's the best thing you've ever tried.
I like that we kept this conversational, and I didn't get to all of my points, but I never would have because I could talk all day about this stuff. Did you have any questions about the? Oh, okay.
I was gonna, I don't know if there's time for this, but I was gonna ask you about like shopping for cheese.
Yeah.
And what to like look for and how to, you know, real label.
So this is actually a really good thing. You know, I started to talk about, you know, having, you know, aren't we lucky here? You know, lovely ferment people, and thank you Flora and her crew for putting this on and everything like that. I wanted to end, and I'm not saying this at the end, but to talk about how I think a lot of us feel maybe a little powerless, a little depressed. There's a lot of things out there in the world that aren't, you know, super awesome, and we're all looking for ways to, in every little piece, to do something good. Support your artisanal cheesemakers. It might look expensive, but every step of the way it is expensive, but it's worth it. You're going to get a yummier cheese. You're supporting your community. I will tell you where I worked when COVID happened. Their sales at Boxcar dropped 90%. They had all this milk they were buying from a farmer. They took their little small business loan they got from the government, gave it to the dairy farmer, and then kept getting milk in. They made, they stopped making all their fancy rhodiola and Tolliver and all that. They made farmer cheese that's kind of like a melty mozzarella cheddar, and they donated it to food banks.
Wow.
Do you think industrial cheesemakers would do that? Never. And this was, they also had a thing where if you were a service worker and you were hungry, you could come pick up a big box of cheese and vegetables. I strongly feel that, and it's not just cheesemakers, but you know, local farmers, they're part of our community. So I would encourage you, whenever possible, to look at artisanal cheesemakers. So that would be number one. If you're interested in, we have fantastic domestic cheese. But as far as buying cheese, I would try to learn a little about the different, like, are you putting together a cheese board, or are you just trying to make sure you don't buy crap?
Yeah, other than like smelling the package.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you can't really smell it. So.
I feel very spoiled being at Formaggio because pretty much, but I will tell you, not all of our cheese is artisanal. You know, like we've got some that I'm like, this is, you know, you could get this just as easily at Star Market. So, and that's not to say there aren't awesome things at Star Market. I would just look at where it's from. There's all those little, just like with wine, the little AOP, DOP, those little things. Those would indicate that their production is controlled, and they're going to have rules about it. That's going to probably generally be a better cheese also. But yeah, I did a cheese tasting recently where everything had to come from Wegmans because they didn't have a cheese shop nearby, and there were some great choices. Yeah, so you just kind of have to look. Yeah. Yeah, you have a question?
Do you recommend any local places here that make cheese like that?
Make cheese?
Yeah.
We are really close to Vermont that has a ton of fantastic cheese, but Massachusetts-wise, Highland Farm out in Lee is pretty phenomenal.
Out of where?
Lee, so it's Western Mass. Highland Farm, they make a bunch of different, they also have milk you can buy, which is gently pasteurized, which would be fine for making cheese at home.
And ice cream.
And ice cream, yeah, like, it's really nice.
That's what just.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
It's
just
beautiful
like
milk.
beautiful.
yeah. Closer than that, I'm sorry, I'm still new to the area, so I don't.
Topsfield has
Topsfield?
a lot of goat.
Yeah, so goat cheese, because goats are a lot easier to manage, you're probably going to find a lot more like local cool goat's milk. They're just less expensive to have, and
It's so much better.
yeah.
But it's also less milk.
Yeah, they produce less milk, that they're, it's not as high in fat, but, it's pretty tasty. So, yeah, it's just different than cow's milk. You have a question?
Well, like, if we're getting all these really fancy cheeses, then should I not put it like in my omelet because heating the cheese up would do bad
No.
things?
No, use it liberally. Use it, buy all the good cheese. Buy all the good cheese and use it everywhere you possibly can. Yeah.
So where is your,
My place is here. Wherever I go. I am a cheesemonger at Formaggio Kitchen on Huron in West Cambridge. We have about 200 cheeses at any one time. We also have a cheese cave downstairs. But my little, yeah, you're welcome to, I'm one of the supervisors there. I'm the British cheese buyer. I'm there a lot. But anyone, if you ever come, just say, can I get a quick tour of the cheese cave? Absolutely. Huron Avenue, Western Cambridge. West Cambridge.
What's the address there? The number?
358 maybe.
There's always somebody can do it.
If you look up Formaggio, you'll find it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that because we get busy sometimes, so I can't say that anyone will be able to just, but generally if you come in, we also do classes there. I do classes there. I'm doing one on Sunday, wine and cheese pairing, so I'll talk about all the how to pair, more in depth about flavor. This was more about this more sciencey oriented, and that would be, I still go sciencey, a little more history though, I could talk about this forever. And I can do personalized pairings, I do virtual tastings if you want me to pick out cheeses and I can talk to you. Yeah, so I have my cards here and I have the little stickers. Yeah.
Does anyone make any small sheep cheese?
England makes smoked sheep cheese.
So you said you specialize in it?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I don't know of any. Yeah. They're not.
How about the smoked goat cheese?
We can talk about it, yes, forever. Let me just take one more.
Yeah, sorry, I came in a little later. I was just wondering, what made you gravitate towards cheese, or was it a family thing, or did you just started it? What got you into cheese?
Yeah, I got a job. I quit being a lawyer, and I started a farm, and I wanted an off-farm job, and my favorite cheesemaker was hiring, and I just started washing dishes, and then I worked my way up, and it was really magical there to see how everything worked, and I love it. I love the human resilience that's in the cheese. This is how people survived, and I like to think about that, the gratitude. But I think cheese is tasty also. It's not all philosophical about, it's delicious. I love it. Like I said, I eat so much cheese. And it's fantastic.
We have a term for that. We call it, you're a cheesehead.
Cheesehead, yeah, excellent. Last question.
Okay. I just have a question about salt and cheese, because I have my blood pressure, so I don't eat
A lot of stuff, yeah, a lot of cheese.
Are there, so I see the things that are obvious, like the Pompeii and Gruyere and things that just don't have so much salt in them.
Yeah.
But are there any crumbly pretzel-like cheeses that aren't really salty?
No, feta is going to be pretty salty. Yeah, those crumbly guys are going to be pretty salty. Yeah.
Is that because the one salt does the protein?
Yeah, it's just a fresher cheese. It's going to be saltier. All right, please, my business card. Please take more cheese also. Yeah.